In 2010, Huawei allowed the UK government to do extensive security reviews of Huawei's hardware and software. The idea was to assure the British government that Huawei is not a security threat for the new 5G rollout. Well, the report is out and the news is not positive. The 40-page report is sharply critical of what they're calling long-standing security flaws. Critics of the company allege that Beijing could use its gear for spying. The United States feels this way. And all of this comes at a time of increased scrutiny for Huawei. The Canadian government is still deciding whether to join its security and trading partners in banning Huawei from supplying technology to build Canada's 5G wireless network. For analysis on the report and what it means for Huawei's future in Canada, let's bring in Steve Waterhouse. Steve is a cybersecurity expert and a former information systems security officer with the National Defence, and he joins me from Montreal. Steve, how serious are the concerns outlined in this report?
Well, they're very serious, Carol, since these have been outstanding issues that have been forwarded already to Huawei. They've been advised for a few years now, and since then, they've proven they haven't done any enhancement to whatever processes. And it goes to not just the hardware itself that is to be deployed, but also the practices inside of the company itself in managing vulnerabilities and keeping on top of these vulnerabilities, how they apply the corrections about software on any piece of material. So that says, in the long run, makes them puts them in a precarious situation in how they can sustain a good and a secure life cycle, not to say just a good cyber hygiene on the equipment.
Well, explain this to me, because I'm wondering, I was looking through it, and I wonder, because I'm a layperson, so I don't have the knowledge you do, obviously, but did they find anything sinister, or is it just that the equipment is not reliable?
Well, if the equipment is what it is, I mean, it's a piece of hardware, and what it goes inside is really the software, how it operates the hardware itself, just like any home computers. What's at stake here is how the people manages that software that operates all of these platforms, and there's a very much a relaxed approach about it, not to say just a disgruntled approach about, they don't care about how the patches will go on, they just want to install the hardware and software, they just want to put this in operation and see later on how it will go. Well, in our way of doing things out west, it's not that way. We have to plan, forecast, and especially document everything that goes on. So it's just like I'm just going to be selling you, Carol, a brand new computer, but I'm going to explain to you. You just click on 3 spots and then you're off on the internet. But I don't tell you how the updates will go on, when they will happen, and how often this might be. So that puts all of these systems to be deployed in a very weird situation, and personally I wouldn't feel secure having those lying around without knowing how they will be taken care of.
Right, especially when we're talking about the potential for espionage or sabotage.
Exactly, because the whole point in this is not the antennas themselves that will be giving out the signal towards the phones that will be deployed using 5G technology, but really the ensemble of the problem is really that these will be deployed to manage the information from the antenna to the phone to the internet. And if only one company is able to manage all of that information, that puts them in a position to be able to steer the messaging or simply the information everywhere they want to, and could potentially have an incursion into the information itself. So that says currently the 4G network, how it is deployed, you have various vendors involved, and in that way they can operate in a neutral manner without disturbing anything. So it just goes as we know it goes today. So if one company manages it all, they can do whatever pretty much they think is good for them.
Yeah, this has been going on. The beginning of this, as I said, this was in 2010 that Huawei allowed these reviews to occur. And it seems to me, it's something you brought up earlier as well, that it's not so much that there were these problems, but that there was no what they call material progress in dealing with the issues.
Exactly, and it's not just government agents that just noticed that. It's an external audit firm, Ernst & Young, just to name them, that since the last 4 years have been performing these kind of audits. And so from a neutral point of view, they bring on this report saying on behalf of, this is what we've observed. So it's not biased saying it's the British government that's tainting the report and says, Huawei, you're bad. It's not that game. So really it's an open book situation in which the British government laid out what were the requirements requirements. Huawei, you have until such a date to make these possible or correct the situation if it was the case. And at the light of this report, we just note that it's not getting better as we go on, and they just lay everything as it was the previous report.
So, Steve, what's this going to mean for Canada's decision?
Well, currently Canada is on the sideline. Personally, I don't know what Canada is waiting for, as many of the former CSIS directors and the current one is saying Canada should not embark in using Huawei technology. Now, the government is waiting for something. I don't know which, but if the British government do not go on with choosing Huawei, I believe this will be a strong influencer in a sense that Canada should go along with the allies, because we have the United States, Australia, New Zealand, even Japan has said no to Huawei. Germany is still debating also on the fact that they will do extensive documentation, if not tests again, but other nations across the world has just said no in order to prevent the worst from happening inside of their telco networks.
Do you have any suspicion about why Canada is waiting on this decision?
It goes into the political arena in linking
Probably
that
not a good time to make that decision.
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, we have elections coming on. It could be done if the decision is done or taken lightly or done wrongly. Could influence the vote coming down in the election in next October. But that said, it could be also influencing a lot of commercial trading that's happening. We just saw a few issues that are popping up at the beginning of the week. We still have 2 people in China that are being detained for political reasons, very obscure one, in fact. So this is how the game is played. So unfortunately, at the political level, they have chips, I believe, they have to play in order before they can make the proper decision in taking or not Huawei.
All right. Steve Waterhouse, cybersecurity expert, joining me from Montreal tonight. Steve, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Have a great evening.